Moving to a new city always carried an air of excitement, a sense of possibilities unfurling with each unfamiliar street and towering skyline. For me, this move wasn't just about advancing my career, but also about embracing a fresh start. I had left behind the familiar chaos of my old life, friends who felt like family, a past relationship that had run its course, and the comforting predictability of my daily routine. The apartment I found, nestled in an upscale neighborhood, was perfect. A modern high-rise with expansive windows, a quiet ambiance, and an unbeatable view of the cityscape. The building exuded an understated elegance, and the moment I stepped into my unit, I knew I had made the right choice. The space was mine to shape, to fill with new memories and experiences. One of the best features of my new home was the nearby park, a sprawling green oasis that stretched alongside a glistening lake. It was a haven for runners and nature lovers alike. I had always loved running. The rhythmic pounding of my feet against the pavement, the steady inhale and exhale that cleared my mind. It was during these runs that I often reflected on my life, my choices, and the people who had shaped me. My past relationship had been with a woman, someone I had loved deeply, but ultimately drifted apart from. I had always known I was bisexual, though it wasn't something I openly discussed unless necessary. My attraction to both men and women was a part of who I was, an intrinsic truth I neither flaunted nor concealed. I believed love had no gender. It was a force that transcended labels and expectations. The first week at my new job had been exhilarating yet exhausting. I was adjusting to a different workflow, new colleagues, and the unspoken expectations that came with proving myself in a fresh environment. By the time I stepped into the apartment building's elevator that evening, all I wanted was a hot shower and the comfort of my bed. The elevator doors were just about to close when a hand shot out, stopping them in their tracks. The man who stepped inside was striking, tall, broad-shouldered, with an air of quiet confidence. His dark, slightly tousled hair and sharp jawline gave him a rugged yet refined look. Dressed in a fitted running shirt and shorts, his toned physique was hard to ignore. He smelled faintly of aftershave, and something else, something earthy and warm. Our eyes met, and for a brief moment, the world around us faded. There was something in his gaze, a quiet intensity that sent an unexpected shiver down my spine. It wasn't just attraction, it was recognition, an unspoken understanding that neither of us voiced. He nodded slightly, a polite but distant acknowledgement. I mirrored the gesture, my heartbeat a fraction faster than before. The elevator ride was silent, except for the soft hum of machinery. I found myself hyper-aware of his presence, the way he shifted slightly on his feet, the way his fingers flexed at his sides. As the elevator slowed to a halt at his floor, he stepped forward, but just as he was about to exit, he glanced back with a fleeting look over his shoulder that lingered for half a second longer than necessary. And then he was gone. The doors closed, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a sudden, unshakable curiosity. Who was he? Why had that simple glance stirred something deep inside me? I lay in bed that night, replaying the encounter over and over again, unable to ignore the quiet pull of something unexpected yet thrilling. The city was new, my life was beginning again. And perhaps, just perhaps, so was something else. The sun hung low on the horizon, casting golden hues over the quiet park. It had been weeks since I last laced up my running shoes. My motivation had dwindled, replaced by the monotony of everyday life. But something had changed, a fleeting moment, a glimpse of someone intriguing. I had seen him once, a lone figure running with an effortless grace. There was something captivating about the way he moved, his steady pace unbroken by fatigue. His presence lingered in my mind, igniting a forgotten desire to return to the path. I didn't know him, but for some reason, I wanted to see him again. So, I made a plan. I would return at the same time, hoping fate would grant me another encounter. My running shoes felt unfamiliar as I tightened the laces, but excitement fluttered in my chest. With a deep breath, I stepped onto the trail, my heart racing not from exertion, but anticipation. The crisp morning air filled my lungs as I fell into a rhythm, my feet pounding against the pavement, my eyes scanning the path ahead, searching for the mysterious runner. But as I completed my loop, my enthusiasm waned. He wasn't there. Disappointment weighed on me, but I refused to give up. Maybe today wasn't the right day. Maybe tomorrow would be different. I resolved to return, determined to try again. As I left the park, a spark of hope remained. This wasn't just about running anymore, this was about something new. Something unexpected. The next morning, the air was cool against my skin as I stretched, my gaze flickering toward the path. My heart thrummed with anticipation. Would he be here today? Would fate be kind? As I started my run, I kept my pace steady, forcing myself to focus on the rhythm of my breathing rather than my anticipation. Minutes passed, and doubt crept in once more. Maybe this was foolish. Maybe he was just a passing moment, never to be seen again. Then, just as I rounded a bend, I saw him. He was running toward me, his stride smooth and powerful. My pulse quickened for reasons beyond the exertion. As he drew closer, I took in every detail: his toned arms, the sheen of sweat on his skin, the focused determination in his eyes. He looked up, his gaze locking with mine for a brief second. "Morning," he said, his voice deep but warm. "Morning," I managed to reply, my breath catching slightly. And just like that, he was past me, his presence lingering like a fading melody. The brief exchange shouldn't have meant much, but it did. It fueled something inside me, an undeniable attraction that sent a rush of energy through my veins. My pace quickened, my motivation renewed. As I finished my run, I glanced back, watching him disappear into the distance. I would be back tomorrow, and the day after that, because now running wasn't just about exercise, it was about the possibility of something more. The first time Owen noticed Liam was purely by chance, or so he told himself. The second time, a coincidence. By the third, he could no longer ignore the feeling that something, some unseen force, was pulling them into each other's orbit. It started subtly, just passing glances, the briefest moments of eye contact before they looked away. Then came the nods, slight inclinations of the head that acknowledged the familiarity that had formed between them. He found himself anticipating these encounters, catching himself scanning the sidewalk or the entrance of his building, hoping to see him again. And Liam, tall, lean, with an effortless grace, seemed to do the same. Their interactions were wordless, but something unspoken passed between them, a silent understanding, a quiet acknowledgement. Then, one day, it changed. Owen was leaving his building when he found Liam waiting just outside, tying his running shoes. Their eyes met, and this time neither of them looked away. Instead, Liam smiled, a small but genuine expression that sent an unexpected warmth coursing through him. "Heading to the park?" Liam asked, his voice smooth, casual. Owen nodded. "Yeah, mind some company?" It was a simple question, but the weight behind it was undeniable. And just like that, they ran together. It was easy, falling into step beside him, their strides matching naturally, their breaths in sync. They didn't talk much, but when they did, the conversation flowed effortlessly. Nothing deep, just light chatter about the weather, running habits, the best coffee shops nearby. But even those simple exchanges carried meaning, a sense of something forming between them. When they parted ways, the air between them lingered with unspoken promises. And as Owen watched Liam jog away, he knew with certainty this was no longer just coincidence. It became routine. Every morning he found himself looking forward to their shared runs. What had once been solitary became something else entirely. Something intimate in a way that went beyond words. They talked more now. He learned that Liam worked in graphic design, that he had an easy laugh and an affinity for classic rock. In return, Owen shared bits and pieces of himself, things he hadn't realized he wanted to say until Liam asked. They spoke about books, movies, past travels, dreams, and ambitions. The more he learned, the more he wanted to know. And then there were the touches. Innocent at first. A brush of fingers when handing over a water bottle. A fleeting press of shoulders when they slowed down. Owen told himself he was imagining things, that the moments between them weren't charged with something deeper. But then there were the glances. The way Liam's eyes lingered just a little longer than necessary. The way his smiles felt like they meant something more. It all came to a head one evening. Their run had been more intense than usual, pushing themselves harder, faster, as if racing towards some unspoken conclusion. When they finally stopped, panting and exhilarated, Liam turned to Owen, wiping the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. "Feel like grabbing a drink?" Liam asked, his voice light, but his gaze intent. Owen hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "Yeah, I'd like that." And just like that, the night shifted. They found a quiet bar not far from the park, ordered beers, and settled into easy conversation. But there was something different this time. Something heavier between them. The touches became more deliberate. The glances more lingering. The space between them grew smaller, charged with the kind of tension that neither of them acknowledged but both undeniably felt. By the time they left, standing close beneath the glow of streetlights, the energy between them was nearly tangible. Owen felt his pulse quicken as Liam stepped a little closer, his eyes searching his face for something unspoken. "Tonight was good," Liam said softly, his voice a touch huskier than before. "Yeah," Owen breathed. "It was." For a moment, he thought Liam might lean in, might close the final inches between them. Instead, Liam smiled, slow, knowing, and then, with a murmured, "See you tomorrow," he turned and walked away. As Owen watched him disappear into the night, heart pounding, he knew one thing for certain: something had started between them. And there was no stopping it now. The dim glow of neon lights flickered against the darkened streets, casting soft shadows through the glass windows of the bustling bar. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air, a mixture of camaraderie and careless abandon. Amidst the crowd, two figures sat across from each other, their conversation flowing as naturally as the drinks in their hands. There was an unspoken tension between them, an electric pull neither could ignore. Every glance held an unspoken promise. Every brush of fingers against the table sent a thrill through David's body. A moment of hesitation lingered between them, a space filled with unsaid words and possibilities. Then, Owen made the first move, a hand resting lightly on David's thigh. The touch was firm yet cautious, testing the waters. David's breath hitched, heart hammering against their ribs. There was no hesitation anymore. They knew what they wanted. Leaning in slightly, David let their own hand drift over Owen's, fingers intertwining for a fleeting moment before pulling away just enough to invite more. No words were exchanged, yet both understood. They left together, stepping into the cool night air. Each step was filled with anticipation, the city lights blurring into the background as their world shrank to just the two of them. Tonight, something was about to change forever. The door to the apartment clicked shut behind them, sealing them off from the rest of the world. Silence hung between them for a moment, filled only by their shallow breaths. The tension that had been building all evening finally reached its breaking point. Owen moved first, closing the distance between them, hands framing David's face with an urgency that sent a shiver down their spine. Lips met in a fiery clash, a kiss filled with both hunger and hesitation, as if they were afraid of waking from a dream. Clothes were discarded with increasing desperation, leaving a trail from the front door to the bedroom. The sheets were cool against heated skin as they surrendered to the moment, losing themselves in each other. Every touch, every whispered name, every shared breath deepened their connection, weaving something between them that neither had expected. As the night stretched on, passion melted into something softer, more intimate. Fingers traced unspoken words onto bare skin, bodies entwined as exhaustion slowly took over. Sleep came easily, comforted by the warmth of the other's presence. David had thought this would be just a night of indulgence, a fleeting moment of desire. But as dawn approached, they weren't so sure anymore. Morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a golden hue across the rumpled sheets. David stirred, eyes fluttering open to the unfamiliar sight of another body beside them. For a moment, they simply watched, taking in the slow rise and fall of his chest, the way his fingers twitched slightly in sleep. Memories of the night before flooded their mind, a rush of heat spreading through them. But beneath that warmth was something else, an unfamiliar tenderness, a realization that this wasn't just a fleeting encounter. As if sensing their gaze, Owen stirred, eyes opening to meet theirs. A lazy smile stretched across his lips. "Morning," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. "Morning," David replied, suddenly aware of how exposed they felt, not physically, but emotionally. For a while, they simply lay there, neither in a rush to break the moment. Eventually, though, reality seeped in. So, David started propping himself up on one elbow. "What happens now?" David hesitated, unsure of what to say. This wasn't something they had planned for. They had moved to this city for work, not love. Love hadn't even been on the horizon. "And yet, I don't know," they admitted honestly. "But I know I don't want this to be just a one-night thing." A flicker of relief crossed Owen's face. "Neither do I," The weight of the conversation pressed on them. But it wasn't suffocating. It was something new, something uncertain, but not unwelcome. David had come here chasing a career, believing they had everything figured out. But maybe, just maybe, they had found something even more important, someone worth staying for.